All right, everybody, good morning. Welcome to day 25 of our online Rankin Technical College AWD C# programming class. This morning in the email that I sent you a set of practice problems. There's 4 problems on there, and I'm going to do each and every one of them for you from scratch. Now, as it says in this paragraph that's right near the top of the page here, these are not being assigned. You do not have to do them. Feel free to do them if you want. And if you do them, you don't turn them in. All right. I will put all of these out on a GitHub repository at the end of the period. All right. Tomorrow, we're going to go over a couple of the assigned homework problems for chapter 8 in particular. All right. We're going to do number 2 here. Well, wherever it is, there it is. This thing about calculating the cost of a resort stay. We're going to do it twice. We're going to first do it without using arrays, and then we're going to implement arrays with it so you can kind of see the difference between the two. All right. I don't know how long that'll take. I would imagine we get both of those done between 8 and 9. Okay. Then we're going to do number 3. Now, again, I didn't name this. Somebody else did. They call it the games database. Technically, again, it's not a database, but we're going to basically set it up like this. I will tell you right now, this problem that we will do together, number 3, is remarkably similar to one of the 2 test problems that you will have for the chapter 8 test, which will be given next Tuesday. All right, so you might want to keep that in mind. All right, you will be responsible for working and doing all 6 of these, and all of them, as it says, should use 1 or more arrays for each problem. All right, so if we come in and start to take a look here at what I gave you this morning, that was this. Pretty short and sweet. All right, so again, the first problem that we're about to do here is to write a C# GUI program. As it says, we'll create an array with 100 random integers in it. Each of these integers will be between 1 and 100. Then we will separate the odd and the even integers. So we will go and take each number and modulo it by 2. And if the answer is 0, we'll put it into an array of evens. And if the answer is 1, we'll put it into an array of odds. In fact, I don't even know if I put it into an array. We'll see when we get there. All right. Allow the use, that should be allow the user, but that's okay. Allow the user to print the contents of either array using an associated button. Then we'll write a commission program. Now I did this a little bit differently and I'll explain it when we get there. All right. But basically what I'm doing is I'm doing the equivalent of creating commissions that's going to fall within these ranges. And we'll do 100 of them to see how they're dispersed, for lack of better words. All right, then, and this is kind of a long program just because the way that it's set up, we've got the letters A through Z, so we will have literally like a switch statement in it with 26 different cases, A, B, C, D, all the way through Z. All right, the one that'll take the most time will be this one. I do have this one basically working now. I worked on it a little bit yesterday, and you'll see it when we get there. Now, this one will be different because we're going to be using a list for this one. In fact, we're going to be using 4 different lists. All right. And I've got a meeting tomorrow morning, as I do every Thursday from 7:45 till 8 with the other instructors in the AWD program who are situated out of the St. Louis campus. And I'm going to show them tomorrow that instead of doing the test and giving them one problem that's similar to the one I showed you before and another one which is kind of just out there in left field, I want to create a fairly simple list problem and have you work on that. It'll be easier than this one we're going to do today. All right, and I'll let you know how that goes. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab all that and copy it to the clipboard. All right, now I've created a folder out there already, And as soon as I close everything, it's called C# practice problems right there. It's totally empty. As you can see, there's nothing in there. So I'm going to start up Visual Basic and we'll get to it then. All right, now, if for some reason this goes faster than I anticipated going, all right, maybe we'll even start on the homework stuff today. We'll just see how it goes. All right, so I'm going to create a new project. All of these, again, will be Windows Forms app.NET Framework. This first one, I'm just going to call it Practice 8-1. There'll be 4 of them, so there'll be Practice 8-1, Practice 8-2, Practice 8-3, and Practice 8-4. All right, I will just put it into a solution that is named Practice 8. All right, and we're going to put it into that folder, and that folder is called C# Practice Problems Chapter 8. All right, so we've got everything. Practice 8.1 is our project name. Put in a folder called C# Practice Problems Chapter 8. I have made a repository for this one, but I haven't put anything in there yet. And the solution name again will be Practice 8. Create, and we'll get going. All right, so this first one is going to work with odd numbers and even numbers. All right, let me start this off the way I typically do, and that is to get rid of that. And then I'm going to bring this in. All right, and that's fine. Just fix it up here. Just give me a second and we'll have it all fixed. There we go. All right, so that's our comment as far as what we're going to do. Okay, jumping back into here, as I always do, I'm going to start by changing the background color. There we go. And I'm going to change the name of my form. Since I'm working here with odds and evens, I'm just going to call it FRM odds and evens. And yes, okay, so now we can get started. All right, I guess I will change my start position, make it center screen, and I will just, for the text here, I'll just put down odds and evens. Then I'll put here practice 8-1. There we go. Okay, fairly simple interface. Okay, this is how I set it up. So I put a label at the top. All right, and it'll be a fairly big label, as you'll see in just a moment. All right, I'm going to change the background or the foreground color of that from black to white because it'll be a little easier to read. All right, that looks about right there. Okay, then underneath that, I made a big text box. All right, and that big text box is going to hold all the odd numbers and all of the even numbers in there. Okay. Now, in order to do that, I'm going to have to make it a multi-line text box. So with this highlighted, I'm going to go down to the multi-line, and I can either double click on it to make it true or click the down arrow and choose true. All right, and that should be big enough there. And now I'm going to have 5 buttons. We can space these along here any way we want. This is how I did it. I made one button by itself right here. Okay. And then a couple here. And I'm just going to make this a little bit wider. And a couple down below it. So there's my interface. All right. this label. I'm going to put in there, click the fill array button to show odd or even numbers. Okay, that's not too bad. I guess that H should be lowercase. And because I like to basically center that, there we go. So that's done. Why don't we name that right away? That's going to be I just called it LBL heading because that's what it is. All right. These are going to be our results right here. I'll leave it white, but I'm going to make it read only. In fact, then I guess it'll turn gray. Now, you probably know this, but I can click on it. I can make it read only, which again makes it gray. But if I want to, I can go back and still change the background color to white. It's still read only now. All right. But, it'll look a little nicer, a little easier to see. And I'm going to call this TXT results. All right. And then we've got our buttons here. This first button is going to be called BTN fill array. And the text on it will be fill array. All right. The second button will be show odd numbers. So it's BTN show odd numbers. And to keep it simple, I just put on here show odd and then I put a number sign. So show odd numbers. The next one will be BTN show even numbers. Well, I guess it needs to be a little wider. There we go. All right. And these will be our clear and our exit buttons. Okay. All right, that's everything. Let's lock the interface into place. All right, and finally, let's set our cancel accept button and accept buttons and set the tab order. All right, so I'm going to set the accept button here to fill array. I will set the cancel button to clear. We've already start position to center screen. So let's come in here and set the tab order. All right, so view tab order, we'll make it 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, so I believe at least now we're ready to get started, okay? Now, one of the things that we were told, I'm just going to switch over here and I'm going to go into the code. All right, so one of the things that we're told here is to create an array with 100 random integers in it. So the first thing I'm going to do up here, as we typically do, is I'm going to declare and initialize one program constant. All right, so const int, I've been calling it size, which is a fine enough name, equals 100. And then we're going to declare and initialize our class variable, which is going to be our array. So int bracket bracket, I just called it numbers, equals new int of size. All right, so we've got both of those, excuse me, both of those are now done. All right, I'm going to jump back into here. There'll be my fill array, show odd numbers, show even numbers, clear, and exit. All right, now the clear, in this case, really the only thing we have to do is clear this. So even though I could put it in its own routine, and normally I would put in a clear form, since it's only one line, I'm just going to say here txt results dot text equals nothing. Okay. And for the exit, just so we get that out of the way, I'm going to come down to where we always bring in this stuff here. And I don't need a show error message on here because there's nothing that's going to be an error situation. I could put it in, but I'm not going to use it for anything. So there's our exit program and our clear. All right. Now, when I run this, I cannot check this because remember, it's read only. So I can't really check the clear to make sure that it's working. All right. But that's okay. And exit appears to be working just fine. Okay. So again, we need our fill array. Okay. We need our, we need the fill array. We need the show odd numbers, and we need the show even numbers. Okay, so with fill array here, let's write a routine called fill the array. All right, and again, we've done this before. I'm going to say a random rand. You don't have to call it rand. You can call it anything you want. All right, now just so you know, what should happen in here, what should happen is the array should be 0 when it starts, but I want to make sure that every time I click the fill array button, every single time, all right, I want to make sure that every single one, all of these are set to 0. And I can do that by saying numbers, the name of the array, size minus equals 0. That'll go in and that'll reset, excuse me, every single thing in there to 0. Now, you might look at that and go, fine, why didn't you say number size? Because remember, we're starting to count at 0. So this will go from 0 to 99. All right. So I'll put a comment in here. Let's put in some comments so you're sure what's happening. So I'm going to say 0 out numbers array. Okay, so that's the first thing. And now I'm just going to come in here and I'm going to build the numbers array. You've seen this quite a few times now, but I'm going to come in there and do this for int LCV equals 0, LCV less than size plus LCV. And as you can see, a lot of it's been filled in for me already. Now I can put whatever I want in here. All right, I did not come in at the beginning. I did not come in and say that we had a minimum number and a maximum number, but I'm just going to use 0 and 100. All right, so I'll put 0, 101. Again, I could have gone in and made those things. All right, if we wanted to. All right, I could have made those things into constants. I didn't, but we could have. All right, now I want to check this, and I'm going to check this like this. Probably don't have to do it. I'm going to do it outside of the array. I'm going to write another for loop in here. All right, and I'm going to say numbers. Let's see. I'm going to say txt results dot text plus equals numbers LCV dot toString plus a blank space. What the heck does that mean? That means that what I'm going to try to do when we run this, we're going to run it in just a second, is to make sure that that is getting filled up with 100 random numbers. I think that's correct, and we're going to find out right now. So let me do a file, save all here, and let me run this. If there's any errors, they're going to come up. So there's my 100 numbers. Now I can check clear. There's a different 100 numbers. There's a different 100 numbers. There's a different 100 numbers. So that appears to be working. All right, that's good. Now, I'm going to keep that there, but I'm going to comment it out. Need to see those numbers. If you wanted to see them, you could leave that in there. But all I'm going to put in here, all right, is just, I'm going to put a message box. And I guess I will put in that from here. I'll put in this, but it's just going to be called show message, not show error message. So we'll put this in at the bottom. And I'm just going to call it show message. All right. So all I want to put here is to call the show message. And I'll say the array has been filled. Array filled. Okay. So now when I run it, as opposed to what you just saw a couple minutes ago, all right, now it just says the array has been filled. And if I fill it again, we're just going to keep getting the same thing. All right. Okay. Now I'm going to show you something, and I'm going to do this, probably end up doing this twice. And if you say why, bear with me for a minute, and then hopefully you'll understand. All right. So we have to show the odds and we have to show the evens. All right. I'm going to do this in two ways because I want to be in one of them. I haven't coded yet. So it'll be interesting to see whether or not it works. All right. So inside of the show odds, I'm going to do my string output str, set it equal to the empty string. And I'll do a txt results dot text. I want to make sure that that is empty. All right. And now I'm going to say for each var number in numbers. So I'm using a for each statement. And I'm going to say if the number that I'm checking is evenly divisible by 2, all right, I can do the evens first or the odds. I guess I'm in the odds. So I'm going to say if it's not equal to 0, what do I know? Well, you should already know this. All right. It's an odd number. Okay. So I'm going to say output str plus equal number plus that. Okay. That should give me all of my odd numbers. So I can now say txt results dot text equal here. Whoops, sorry. Here are the odd numbers. All right, I'm going to, since it's inside of a text box, I can't just say \n. I've got to say \r\n. Like that. All right, and then I want to add to that my output string. Okay, now, which I better spell right. There we go. Let's see if that works. All right, so file, save all, run it. Now the other button, this button doesn't work yet, this one, but if I, here are the odd numbers. Well, here, add the odd numbers, and it's not showing. Okay, so something's wrong. That's okay. This is the time to be checking on that. So txt results, here are the odd numbers. All right, so it should be output string plus number, if number modulo 2, our number in numbers. We call this numbers, correct? We did. Oh, I know what the problem is. Okay. Problem is when we run this, if I click right now, we haven't filled the array yet. Now we have, and there's our numbers. All right. Now, one thing that we can do, you don't have to do this, but one thing that we can do, I want to show you this. It's actually good that that happened, believe it or not. All right. So if after I call, let's say, when the program begins, technically, I shouldn't be able to click either of these buttons when the program begins. Right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my load event and I'm going to call this disable clear, odd and even buttons. I could call that whatever I wanted to, but private void, grab this. And I'm going to come in here and say BTN odd, show odd numbers, I guess it is. Dot enabled is false, and BTN show enable even numbers equal false. What did that do? Again, as always, it's easiest to run this and show you. Notice both of these have purple text. They're both disabled. I don't want to enable those until I click this button. Right now, if I click this button, they're still not being enabled, so we'll have to do that. So in the fill the array, right when we get down and say the array has been filled, now I'm going to call enable odd and even buttons, which again hasn't been written yet, so we will. I'll put it right underneath the other one. And it's the same thing as here, except rather than setting them to false, okay, we have to set them to true. Now there's still going to be an issue with this. All right, so watch what happens, please. You'll notice that right now they are disabled. Now they are enabled. That's good. So I can show my odds, even though my evens has nothing in it. Okay, but after I show my odds or I show my evens, okay, I have to figure out, well, do I want to immediately disable those buttons again? And that doesn't make a lot of sense. All right, but it's something that we may want to do. All right, or you may not. This may be only something you want to do at the beginning of the program. Or you might say, well, geez, I don't even want to do it at all. And technically, you don't have to. Nothing bad is happening, except that when you click it, I mean, that's the other thing we could do here. We could check, and if the numbers array is empty, we could just say, hey, you got to fill the array first. So there's a lot of ways that this could potentially be done. Now, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to steal everything I just did, everything for the odds. And I'm going to come in here and put it in there for the evens. All right, except here it's equals 0. And here it's the even numbers. That should be everything. Should. All right, so file, save all. Okay, let's run this. Now, I'm not going to take the time to count and make sure that literally I have 100 numbers in here. I'm going to take for granted that I do. So there's my odd ones. There's my even ones. All right. And when you look at these, we could have come in and sorted these, etc., except for the fact that right now they're in a string. All right. I didn't follow the requirements. I want to say that again. I did not follow the requirements. All right. What do I mean? I listed them here. That works. But we didn't put them into an array. Can we do that? Well, of course we can. So we can come through here and we can create 3 different arrays here. So I can have all 3 of these. And this one could be odds. And this one could be evens. Now there's a bit of a problem here. First of all, whoops, that should be an S. Okay. This will work. We can get it to work, but technically, odds is never going to be 100. It'll be somewhere around 50, and evens will be somewhere around 50. So I'm not sure. All right, but we'll see as we go on. I'm doing this off the top of my head right now. All right. So what we did previously, all right, was we came in here, and if we found This is still fine. Filling up the array will be just fine. That'll be fine. All right. But when we come in here, all right, for the for each number, technically, we don't want to put it into output string. We can, but we also want to add it to the array. All right. And this could end up being a little bit problematic. All right. Because if we look in here, right now it works. All right. But what I might want to do here is comment this out. All right. Then come in here and do this, write a regular for loop. And I'm going to put LCV less than size. All right. But now I want to make the same kind of check, but not exactly the same, but it'll be the same, basically the same kind of check. Now it's not going to be number divided by 2. We're going to get an error because number doesn't exist. We'll have to check numbers LCV. Notice numbers LCV divided by 2. It's going to give me an error there because I don't have curly braces there. So if that's the case, we do want to add that to our output string. That's true. We do want to do that. All right. But do we have to do that? And the answer is technically it's no. What we want to do is we want to add that. All right. We want to add that to our odds array. So I should be able to say odds LCV equal numbers LCV. Now, that said, that's not really right either. All right, what do I mean? Well, let's imagine that the first number is even, okay? And the second one's odd. So let's say the first one is 16 and the second one is 33. All right, so it'll come in here and it'll say, is the number modulo 2 not equal to 0? It is equal to 0, so it's going to skip this. Then it'll do the next one, which will be whatever we said, 33 or whatever, and that one will be. But this is now 1, so this is going to become 1. All right, how do we get around that? Okay, well, there are different ways of getting around it, and I'm going to show you. I'm doing this off the top of my head, but I think this will work fine. All right, I'm just going to come in here and say int count equals 0, like that. All right, so if it finds it, I'm going to say the odds of count are equal to numbers LCV. And when I find one, I've got to add 1 to count. All right, I think that's going to work. All right, now to check it, what I'm going to do is I'm not going to worry about this output string, etc., that's in here. But when I'm all done, I'm going to put another for loop in here, and I'm just going to display the numbers. All right, so in other words, I'm going to come in here and say what I want to show in here is I will put output str plus equal odds count plus a blank space. And I don't have to add 1 to count or anything like that. Okay, in fact, here it will be LCV. Oops. But it'll be LCV less than count. I believe this will work. We're going to see right now. You'll see it when I see it. All right, so I've still got this. Here are your odd numbers. Okay, so let's see if this works. And if it doesn't, we'll hopefully be able to figure out why. So fill the array. The array has been filled. Show odd numbers. Here are the odd numbers. They're all there, I think. All right. My evens still work because I did it the other way, but these odds appear at least to be working. All right. And what I told it to do was show me everything that was in that odds array. Now I'm going to leave all this stuff in there. All right. And you can comment and uncomment stuff, etc., as you like. All right. But now what I'm basically doing in here is now I am meeting the requirements that we had. So again, I'm going to grab these just like we did. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to comment this out like we did for the odds. And I'm going to paste this in. All right. Now, notice here, because I didn't copy in int count equal 0. All right. Now I want to say if it's equal to 0, I want to say evens. We'll fix that in just a minute. Evens. All right. That should be double equal. All right. So now we want to print out evens. Okay. So let's take a look at that file. Again, I'm going to do a file save all here. All right, the array is filled. Both my buttons are open. There's the odd numbers. There's the even numbers. All right. So you might even say, well, what, big hairy deal. What the heck is the advantage of doing that? If we had wanted to, all right, if we had wanted to, we could run a sort in here. All right. And the only problem, I mean, I'll try it right here and we'll see if it works. My worry is it's going to show all those zeros at the beginning, but I don't know if it's going to do that or not. All right, so let's see. Here is where we figured them out. So here I'm going to say array.sort evens. All right, and I'm going to see if that's going to put that in there, if it's going to show all those zeros. And when I say all those zeros, remember, we said that the array has got 100 elements in it, but we're not filling it with 100 elements. So I don't know if this is going to work or not. And if it does, we'll add the array.sort to the, and when we'll do the odds as well. So let's look. All right. Well, when you look, there's the problem. Okay. It's, let's see. Let's count. Array.sort evens. It's not working the way I thought it would. All right. There probably is a way, and it probably isn't even that hard to figure out how you could come in and sort these. All right. I mean, I could write my own thing and run a sort on the output string, but I'm just going to leave it at that. So what you've seen in here now, all right, is how to fill up an array, how to go and just search for something that's in an array or in an array, and how to do it both putting the results in just a text box or putting the results in an array itself. All right. Hopefully that made at least a little bit of sense to you. All right. But believe me, the last thing in the world I'm trying to do is confuse anybody in here. All right. So like I said, that's the first one. Let's jump into number 2 here. It's 8:44. I'll take a break right at 9 o'clock. All right. Okay, so add a new project, Windows Forms app. We call the other one Practice 8.1. So we'll call this one Practice 8-2. All right. Again, Windows Forms app. I thought I did that already. So, yep, I did. I hit the back button. So there's that. As always, let's come in here. This particular example, this second one that we are doing right here. All right. This is going to be thing for commissions. So I'm just going to rename it FRM commission counters, because that's basically what it is. All right. So yeah, that's fine. All right. And I'll put in here commission counters. practice 8-2. All right, let's change our background color. All right, and the interface is pretty similar. I could just copy the last one over. It's not a whole heck of a lot to do here, so I'll just redo it. All right, and so I'm going to call it LBL heading. All right, and I'm going to put in something like click show totals button and clear button to run again. All right, that'll be changed in just a minute. Don't worry about that. All right, now I'm going to come in and we're going to create our text box. Again, I'm going to make this a multi-line text box. And these are going to be my results. So I'm going to literally call it TXT results. All right, and then I need my 4 buttons. I could put them 2, 2, or I'm just going to put them across here as 4 buttons. Looks to me like they're a little bit too wide. Okay, and not too bad. That'll be my interface, I guess. All right, and you all know I like to come in here and center this. All right, so we've got that. That's LBL heading. We've got that. That is TXT results. I've locked my interface. This one, I'm going to fill the array. So just like before, I'm going to call this BTN fill array. And that's what the button will say. All right. The next one will be to show totals. So it will be BTN show totals. Hopefully this is wide enough. I've got a feeling it's not going to be, but we'll see in a second. No, it's not. I'll just make that one a little wider. All right, then we'll have our clear and our exit. Which of course we better rename. And exit. All right, I'm going to double check. I didn't do this last time, but just to make sure I renamed everything. And it looks like we have. So the text right there, we have reset the text, but I did not set my start position. So we'll make that center screen. All right, again, the accept button will be fill array. We could make it show totals, whatever you want. All right, and the cancel button will be our clear. Now, I'm saying this and I'm not mentioning names or anything like that. It doesn't make any sense to do that. That said, all right, some of you are not following directions when you have a test. In other words, You're not coming in, you're not setting your tab order like I'm about to do. You're not setting a cancel button and a clear button. Those are free points. So if you haven't been doing that, please do it. All right. I'm giving you tests that I have not written. So if you say, yeah, that's just busy work. Yeah, but somebody has decided that they want that busy work to be in your programs. So I'm going to click on here and I'm going to do my view tab order. And it will be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Another view tab order. This actually is a read-only field. So we made it read-only, but again, I'm just going to change its color back to white. Now, some people might find that confusing. And hey, it's read-only. Why are you making it white? Because I can. All right. I don't have to. It's just the way I decided to do it. So here will be my fill array. Totals. And again, for the clear, it's just clearing this. So, that literally all I need to put in there is txt results dot text equals nothing. All right. For the exit, I'm going to, as we just did, I'm going to bring in my call to exit program or not. I don't think I'll need a show message, but maybe I do. I don't remember. So I'm just going to put them both in there. And I'll call this show message. All right, so all of that stuff should now be done, meaning I've got to do the fill array and the show totals. One thing I didn't do was to clean this up. All right, and then I'm going to come back in here and I'm going to grab this. Well, I guess there's more. All right, that's everything for number 2. Look a little ugly for a second, but we'll fix it. Right. And then we've got these, so. All right, so that's all. Now, not going to lie to you here. For lack of better words, and I don't know if you'll agree with my verbiage right here or not, but for lack of better words, I cheated when I did this one. Okay. And when I say I cheated when I did this one, all right, what I mean is I didn't actually come up with sales totals. What I did instead was I came up and grabbed this right here. I made it equal to 0. I'm going to create a random number that's going to be a 0 or a 1 or a 2 or a 3 or a 4 or a 5 or a 6 or a 7 or an 8. Okay, we're not asked to do anything with totals here. So even though this is a 0, it symbolizes, or it's symbolic of 200 to 299. Even though this says 300 to 399, we're going to symbolize it as a number 1 in an array. All right. So in a way, you could look at it and say, yeah, you are cheating. You're not really doing it right. I would argue and say There's nothing wrong with what I'm doing. If we were asked to show every one of these amounts, then I would do it differently. All right, but I'm just going to show you how I did do this one. So again, just like before, I'm going to declare and initialize my one program constant, which again will be const int size equal 100, just like before, and declare and initialize our class variable. Remember again that a class variable means that it's defined outside of any function or method that's in here, and that's what we're doing. It'll be an integer array, and I called it commissions. Okay, so right now, really, other than that, it looks very similar to what we just did. Not only that, fill array is going to look virtually the same. Okay, so fill the array, which we'll write down here. All right, just like we did before. All right, I'm going to say random rand equal new random. All right, I've got fill the array here. Oh, I'm not returning anything. So this is just a private void here. That's why I had the error. All right. So now I'm going to say, again, always start out with a fresh text box. So txt results dot text is equal to nothing. Just like before, I want to zero out the commissions array. Last time it was the numbers array, but this one we're calling it commissions. All right, so I'm going to say commissions size minus 1 equals 0. And then again, should set everything to 0 for me. Then we have our loop. All right, and it'll be commission LCV. And that's going to be equal to, again, aran.next. We want to start with 0, and the last number we want is 8, but remember, we need to have one more than that. So that will give me a random number between 0 and 8, which will correspond to commissions 0, commissions 1, commissions 2, commissions 3, commissions 4, commissions 5, commissions 6, commissions 7, and commissions 8. That's exactly what we want to have. All right, and just like before, okay, I will do a show message here that says, like the array has been filled. And we'll just put it down here this time, array filled. All right, and just like before, okay, we now can come in and we can check and make sure that part of it's working. So file, save all. Let me go and reset my startup project to 8.2. All right, fill the array. The array has been filled. All right, so what we have left to do is to calculate those show totals. All right, and in show totals, I'm just going to call this calculate commission totals, which of course hasn't been written yet. So right down below here. All right, and we will write that when we come back from the break. So let's take a break, and I broke this down actually into 2 routines. Okay, this will calculate the totals, and when we get done, we're going to display the totals. Okay, and I just wanted to mention that to you. So it is 9. Let's come back, please, at 9:10. I'll be back in just a couple minutes. All right, it's 9:10, so I'm going to go on. You may have noticed I've already added a programmer. Hopefully I didn't lose my connection. In my tenure as a, quote, professional programmer, unquote, good, I'm still connected. All right, I have found that most programmers are lazy people. What do I mean by that? Well, if you look up here, you'll notice that before each one of these, I put A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I. Most programmers that I know would call these A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, and I. All right, now, because of the fact that we have IntelliSense in here in our IDE, in our integrated development environment, it's much easier to put longer names in here, but this is making the program at least somewhat, all right, self-documenting. Okay, so now I'm going to go through the array. All right, and now basically all I want to do, and I can go in either order. I decided to go from biggest to smallest. So this will be 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and 0. So I could have started with 0. I just started with 8 for whatever reason. All right. So if commissions LCV equal 8, well, then I know that it was a commission. Basically, I want to add 1 to my 1,000 and above. And that's how I'm going to do this all the way down. So let me copy this. This will then become an else. If it's 7, then it'll be 9 less than 1,000, etc. So that'll be 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and 0. All right. So these 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and 0. All right, and there's our names. Well, that was 2 less than 3. This one is 3 less than 4. This one is 4 less than 5. 5 less than 6. 6 less than 7. 7 less than 8. 8 less than 9, and all the rest are correct, I believe. 9 less than 1,000 and 1,000 and above. All right. Now I could display them right here, but this is called calculate commission totals. That's kind of what I did here. All right. And in fact, a better name than calculate commission totals would be update commission totals, because that's what I'm doing. All right, so I'll do it like that. Now I want to call display totals. Now, kind of a bad thing about this, since I made all these variables local, I have to pass all of them in. It's not that that's that big a thing. It really and truly is not. All right, so outside of my for loop here, I'm going to call display commission totals. And now inside of here, I'm going to have to pass each one of these. All right. So all right, there should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 in there. Okay. All right. Let's grab all this and we're going to put it right below. So this will be another private void display. Now it's going to give me errors, and don't worry about it. We'll get all these out of there in a minute. All right. Somehow I lost a curly brace here. No, I did not. Let's see. Okay, so let's double check. That curly goes with the one down there. Good. That for loop goes with the one down there. That's good. All right. It's giving me these errors here because these are all wrong. Okay. I'm just going to get rid of them and use my own names here. They're all ints. So I'm going to call int, and I'm just going to call it 2, int 3, int 4, int 5, int 6, int 7, int 8, int 9, and int thou for 1,000. All right. Now of course, I don't want a semicolon there, but I need my curly braces. And once I put in these curlies, I should have no more errors. It's not going to do anything yet because there's no code in there, but that's okay. All right. Because this is the only thing we have left. Okay. So I'm going to set up again, as always, string output str, initialize it to nothing, and then just keep adding to it. So output str plus equal, and I put in here, I did it like this. All right. I decided to come in here because I haven't been doing it and use a little bit of string interpolation. So number of commissions or comms, 200 to 299. And then a \T. All right, I'm going to do a bunch of copying here and then I'll fix all of them. All right, so we'll get that in just a second. All right, so all of these, of course, have to change. This will be 3. This will be 4. This will be 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and I think we call this thou for 1,000. Thou. All right, so those are all fixed. Now I got to fix these. 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, 5, etc. And I just changed this one to 1,000 and, oops, try that again, 1,000 and up. Okay, let's see how it works. All right, my internet connection dropped. Hopefully it's not going to screw up the presentation, but I guess we'll see. All right, so let's see. So again, fill the array, show the totals. This is not going to be right. Oh, it actually is better than I thought it would be. That's good. Let's add these and see if it equals 100. 13 and 7 is 20, 36, 48, 62, 73, 84, 91, 100. If I fill the array again, I should get different totals. So what I'm doing in here, like I said, is I'm not actually figuring out commission rates per se. I'm kind of quasi doing it, or however you'd want to say that. All right, so you, like I mentioned before, you could actually come in here and make a case and say, well, you know, what you're doing is wrong. And you know what? I'm not even going to fight with anybody on that. All right, but I will, every time I do this, I will get a different number of totals, and every time those totals should add up to 100. And you can see that they are varying each time. All right. So when we go back, let's just take a quick look at what we just did. All right. So very similar to the last program, we started it by setting up a constant of size 100. Then we made an array with that many elements in it. All right. Then we fill the array, and we fill the array by creating an instance of the random number class, clearing out our text box, making sure that each time that array that we were working with up here, this one, it was zeroed out or empty. Then in here, we filled the array, and we didn't actually fill the array with 100 commissions. We filled the array with 100 numbers that were between 0 and 8. All right, whereas 0 again represented a commission between $200 to $299, all the way up to an 8, which represented a commission of $1,000, or not, you know, the amount, whatever they were going to make, $1,000 or above. All right, we let them know that the array was filled, and we broke our show totals into two different methods. Update commission totals, where again, as I mentioned to you, I tried to give, these aren't the best names in the world, but hopefully at least they're self-descriptive. If they were not, I could always come in here and put in comments that said like 200 to 299, etc., and work my way down like that. All right, maybe I'll do that during your next break. In fact, let's just do it now, just so it's done. And I'll just copy it down. All right, so that's 2, 3, 4, 5. Somehow I lost the 9 when I copied. That should be a 9. All right. So that, I think, at least did a pretty good job of letting you see what was in here. So this was actually, this would fill the commissions array with 100 random numbers between 0 and 8, representing the variables above. Okay, so we did that. So if it was an 8, it was this, a 7, a 6, etc., all the way down. Then we wanted to display them, and because of the fact these were all local variables, meaning that they had been declared inside of here, and since we want to use them in this routine, we have to pass them in. And these are the actual parameter names in here. In here, I can give them formal parameter names. So instead of 2 less than 3, I just called it 2. Instead of 3 less than 4, I called it 3, etc. And then in here, all we did was print these out. That's it. All right, our clear and our exit, nothing new there. All right, so that is the first 2 problems. All right, so far we have finished. Just close all these tabs. We have finished on here. Number 1, to write the program to create an array with 100 random integers between 1 and 100. We separated them out into their own arrays, and we allowed the user to print the number of odds or the number of evens. Where we were working with command. All right, again, I put in there what you might consider a kludge or a hack or something else, but like I said, that's how I did it. All right. Here will be the third one then, so let's go in and do that one. Going up to my solution here, and I'm going to add a new project, a Windows Forms app. It will be called Practice 8-3. This one is going to end up being what I called, at least, a kind of a letter frequency container, for lack of better words. We'll just call this, rename it as FRM letter counter. Okay, do that. Come in here, and as always, I'm going to change my background color. Okay, again, the interface will be very, very close to what we have been doing. I'm going to make this center screen, and I'll put this in here, letter counter hyphen practice 8-3. Okay, so again, we will have a single label up at the top here. All right, that'll be our heading. So I'm going to make it LBL heading. All right. And I'm going to put a text box down below that in just a second. Okay, so the text on here is going to be enter text into the box below. When done, click count button. We haven't made any of that stuff yet, but we will in just a second. So there that is. We'll change all that in just a minute. Then I'm going to put a text box in here that's going to take up most of this. In fact, I'm going to make this even bigger just for this one. So the text box will go here. It will again be a multi-line text box. So I'm going to go down to multi-line, set it to true, and I'm going to pull this way down. That's pretty good, I think, right there. And these are going to be our results. So I'll call it TXT results. And then we'll need 3 buttons. All right, that looks pretty good. So let's create, we can set the size of all of our text. That's done. I might as well lock this into place while I'm at it. This has been renamed, but I am going to center that, the text that's in there. This, I'm not even gonna center that, I'm just gonna leave it the way it is. This will become, since we're doing a letter search in here, I did call this one BTN letter search. And the text in there became letter search. Hopefully I made it wide enough. It looks like I did. This one is our clear button. And this one will be our exit button. All right, let's double check and make sure everything's been renamed. There's not many things in there. They have been good. I will set my accept button to BTN letter search. I will set my cancel button to BTN clear. I've already told it it's supposed to be center screen. So I'm going to click up here and then do a view tab order. Set my tab order to 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so all of that is done. This will be my letter search. This will be my clear, which again is just txt results dot, and I can say dot clear. I'm just used to doing it dot text. Oops, dot text equals nothing, like that. All right, and again, we could have written a routine to do that. To me, it's kind of silly when it's one line of code. All righty. So let's do our exit. And again, I'll bring all this in. All right, so let's save it. Let's set our startup project to 8.3. Let's run it. Now I'm going to make this read only in a minute. I just left it off so the clear works. Good. All right, and exit also works. That's good. Okay, this time again, we'll do it read only. All right, and again, I will make it white. Totally up to you how you would do this. So all of that is done. In other words, my entire GUI has been created. All right, so let's go into the code. And the first thing I want to do is go up to the top, get rid of these. I'm going to grab that code that we had in here, not code, but this text, copy that to the clipboard, paste that in, and then let's fix it up a little bit. Now you'll notice it says, note, use the string.split method here. We have talked about this, but not in detail. So let's take a quick look at it. All right, as you'd probably guess, if I come out here and I type in C# string.split and hit enter, one of the first things that's going to come up is going to be Learn Microsoft. Here's the string split method, and I'll use that one. Returns a string array that contains the substrings, in this instance, that are determined by elements of the specific string. So imagine for a second that what I typed in was this. Now is the time for all good people to come to the aid of their party. Usually, if I was doing a word count in here, I would split it on the blank space. All right, and then this would be whatever I called it, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. I don't want to do that here. I want to split it So that's the first array element, that's the second array element, that's the third array element, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth, etc. All right. The only reason I'm telling you that is technically I had to go and look up how to do this when you wanted to split and you wanted to split on something other than a blank space or a comma or something else. All right. Okay. Let's see. So as always, same thing we've done with the other two, declare and initialize our constant. So that was a const int size. All right. The size now is not going to be 100. We need to account for every letter in the alphabet. Last time I checked, there were 26 of them. So we'll go from 0 to 25. So A is actually going to be 0. If I wanted A to be a blank space, maybe I even want to count the blank spaces. Then I could have made the blank space 0. All right. And then actually done it that way. But I just did it the way that I did it, like this. All right. Then I went and declared and initialize our class variables. All right. So the first thing we had in here was a string, and that's that somebody puts into that box. So I called it phrase. All right. Equals new string. We can make this any size we want. All right. I wouldn't make it 26 there. Okay. Let's say, for example, I want to hold up to 1,000 characters. I can do that. All right. That should be plenty big, at least I would think. All right. Then I had an integer string that I called num each letter. So that'll be the number of A's and the number of B's, the number of C's, whoops, all the way up to the number of Z's. Now let's see. So somehow my numlock got screwed up here, so don't know how, but it did. So I'm just going to redo it like this. All right, that's fine. Move it over. Numlock, there we go. And it's the insert button key. Okay. Equal. So string phrase equals new string. And like I said, I made it 1,000. All right, that's fine. I don't care. Okay, now the other thing I did, and we didn't have to do it like this, but I made all my counts global. All right, if you say, I don't know what you mean, well, there's 26 of them. Int a count equals 0, and I thought it'd be fastest to just do it like this. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z, and I'll hit enter at the end. Of course, I've got to change the name of all these. They didn't have to be called this, of course, but I figured that doing it this way, again, made the program at least a little bit more self-documenting. S-T-U. Y and Z. All right, so finally, I've got all those done. All right. So in my letter search, what I called in here, we've already checked the clear and we've already checked the exit. So those two buttons are completed already. All right. So the thing that I did in here was I said string input, I just called it input, equals txt results.text.trim. This is the first time that we're inputting something. So I am going to come in here and I'm just going to use an if statement that basically says if it's empty, we're going to give a message that says you got to put something in there and then we'll return. All right, so if input is empty, we'll call our show error message, and it is an error. So we'll put in here, you must input some text in the box. And I'll say here, text box, left, empty. All right. If it's indeed empty, all we want to do is set the focus. There's nothing to remove. So just txt results.focus. All right. And return. In fact, I made that read only, and I'm going to get rid of that read only that was in there in just a second and return. All right. If it wasn't empty, we're going to call perform letter search count, which I haven't written yet, but we'll write it right down below here. So let me just put that in there. So that'll be a private void form letter search count. Okay, that got rid of all of our errors. All right, but I am going to take this and make that so it's not read only. That way I can either enter my own text into there if I want to do that, or I can let the user put text in there. Now, I don't think that I made that 0 before, so I'm going to change my tab order. It'll become 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, view tab order. When I test it, I can either manually type something in, or what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go out and grab something from the internet that's out there and just paste it in there. All right. So what we've got left then is this perform letter search count. All right. Okay. So again, we're going to come in just like I did before. I'm going to start with this. I don't have to check for it being empty, but I'm just calling this input. All right. Now, to try to make my life a little bit easier, all right, remember there's an upper and a lowercase for every letter. So I don't want to have to check 52 things. I can at least cut it in half and check 26. And I'm going to do that by saying var phrase equal input dot to lower. And I used var there. It's a string. I could have made it a string too, but I just used var. The system will figure out what it is. Now what I want to do, all right, is I want to come through there and I want to basically just go through the entire thing. So I want to go through the entire phrase or whatever you want to call that. All right. And I want to count. Every time it finds an A, I want to add to the A counter. Every time it finds a B, I want to add to the B counter, etc. Now I'm looking at this and this works, but I didn't use split. I don't think I did in here. I'm going to check real quick, but I don't think I did. So I believe I violated the rules. Didn't find it. All right, we'll do it this way. Then we'll see if we can go back and do a split on it and redo it. All right. So the first thing I really should have done in here, this is in my letter search, right? And I checked for it being empty. Well, you know what? That's a really poor way of doing this. So what I'm going to do right here, is in here. All right. I'm going to grab everything that's in here and I'm going to cut it. And I'm going to call here validate text box is not empty, because I'm violating one of my own rules here, and that is you shouldn't put executable code in a click event, or if you do, it should be as little as possible. All right, so there we've got that. All right, it won't change anything, but now we're down to here, okay? Now this thing right here that I'm looking at, this phrase, we don't even need this, I don't think. I'm going to try commenting that out. I don't think we're going to need this. Why? Let's see. There. All right. I don't think we're going to need it. So we'll see in just a minute. So this is going to perform the letter search count. When we get done with this, we're going to call another routine, and that routine will actually display the letter count. So this ends up being kind of ugly. You've been warned. All right. So we've got this thing. It's now lowercase. So for int LCV equals 0, LCV is less than phrase.length, LCV plus plus. Okay. So now we're going to do a switch on that character. Switch on phrase LCV. Case A. And notice it's inside of single quotes here. All right. And I'm going to say here plus plus a count and then break. Notice it didn't give me an error, but I'm using single quotes here. I'm checking it a character at a time. It's really an important concept for you to realize. I am checking it a character at a time. So let me grab this. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. And at the bottom, we will have a default, and that'll basically handle the blank spaces we have in there. We're not doing anything with them, so I'm just going to do a break. All right, so I've got to manually change all these. Bear with me for a couple minutes. Oops. E, right? Once again, my internet connection dropped. This is a really good commercial that I'm giving you on why not to have Charter. All right. I'm just hoping that it didn't drop the Teams thing, because if it does, I'll have to redo this, and I don't want to redo this. Well, either I miscounted or I screwed up. All right, A, A, B, B, C, C, D, D, E, E, F, F, G, G, H, H, I, J, J, K, K, L, L, M, M, N, N, O, O, P, P, Q, Q, R, R, S, S, T, T, U, U, V, V, W, W, X, X. Well, there it is. Y, Y, and Z, Z, otherwise we'll break. Okay, so that should count everything. All right. Okay. Now, I'm going to call when I get done with this. So this is outside of that switch statement. I'm going to call display letter count. Now, hopefully you understand why I made all of these counts global, so I wouldn't have to go passing all that in again. All right, technically that's not the best way of doing it, but it will work. Okay, so let's see. That was still inside. Where are we? That's the switch. That's the for loop. I want to call this outside of the for loop. So I want to call it right there. Now it's giving me an error because of course we haven't written it yet. So private void display letter count. All right. And let's see. Well, what first thing I want to do is I want to clear. All right. So I can't just say again, txt results dot text equals nothing, nothing. Or I could go back here and actually make this, since I am calling it in two places now. And put that in there. And then I could call it from here. That's actually a cleaner way of doing it. All right. So after we do this, I'm going to have to do a bunch of copies again, but unfortunately it's the last time. So again, string output str equal nothing. And then we're going to have a bunch of output str plus equal. And again, I use string interpolation in here. All right, again, let me copy this down. All right. That's those. Now I got to do these. All right. Now, what I did in here is I added after every sixth one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So after F here, I added a \R\N for a new line. So then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that would be here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 here. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 here. All right, now to test this, and there's different ways, of course, you could test it, but the first time when I tested here, I'm going to manually type in A, B, C, D, E, F, G, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z, and I'm going to click letter search. Oh, I never told it to print. I'm sorry. So right here, txt results.text equal output string. There we go. So file, save all, do this again. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. And it should give me a count of 1 for each one. And it looks like it is. My God, I hate Charter. So I'm going to do it again, and I'm going to leave a couple out. So A, D, doesn't have to be in order either. C, L, M, N, O, P, R, T, X, Z. All right. There's a problem right now. Some of these are 2 and they shouldn't be. Okay. Well, why is that? It's because I'm not resetting my counts. All right. So all of those counters should be reset to 0. All right. I believe at least they should be. 0. So there's 2 ways of fixing that. Well, the hardest way would be to take all these and make them local. And I can do that. All right. I can actually come in and do that. And I think I will do that, but I'm not going to do it in front of you because it's a waste of your time watching me. So I'll take those variables and I'll put them in here and then I'll pass them into here. All right. Maybe I'll do that. We'll see. Okay. But what I want to show you though is I'm going to grab this. I'm going to run it again. But now I'm going to go out to the internet here and let's just I'll grab this. Copy that, paste it in so you can see what's in there and do a letter search. That's going to be a little bit more reminiscent of what you'd actually want to put in there. And as you probably guessed, typically, if you look at the vowels in here, A, E, I, O, and U, All right, U isn't so much, but A, E, and I are the most that are in there. All right, so that's another one that we've knocked out. Okay, so there's going to be a couple of changes I'm going to make to try to improve this, but I'll do that without you watching. All right, so you don't have to watch it, and I don't want the internet to keep going down again too. So, all right, it's 10. Let's just start the next one. All right, so I'll build the interface and the like and say a couple words about it, and then we'll take ourselves another break. All right, this is going to have the most complex interface, just so you've been told. So let me close this. All right, and let's come in here and let's add a new project. Another Windows Forms app. This will be Practice H8-4. All right, that's in there. This is going to be an employee list, so I'm going to rename this FRM employee list. All right, I will change the, I'm going to have to make this bigger and wider with what we're doing here. So I'm going to set it to about there. That should be good, I think. And let's see, we'll set the start position to center screen. I'm going to set the text in here to employee list hyphen practice 8-4, and we will change the color of the form and then get going. Let's make it yellow. That's fine. All right. I'm going to have a total of four labels. Not going to put a heading up here this time. We could have, but I'm not going to. This is the one program out of all of them that, in my opinion at least, is the most interactive. So that'll be first name. We'll have last name. Oops. Salary and department. Okay, I'm going to move both these up. This is going to be our area where we're going to show our output. And I made that a big text box. So first, let's get the text boxes in here. And one more. All right, this one will be a multi-line. And at the bottom, we're going to have 5 buttons. This, as I said, this so far, this one is most of 2 in this class. All right, because the stuff, as you'd probably guess, especially after we get done with chapter 11, is going to get a little bit more difficult. That was great. All right, good enough. All right, so take these right away and center them, and these and center them. And same with these here. And here. All right. Let's come in here, and we've already set that to center screen. That's good. This is going to say first name, so this will be LBL first name. And the text will be first name. This will be TXT first name. All right, this will be LBL last name, and it will say last name. This will be TXT last name. All right, this will be LBL salary. And the text on it will be salary. This will be TXT salary. And finally, this will be LBL department. The text on it will be department. And this will be TXT department. This is just going to be our results, so I'll make it TXT results. All right, it will be read only. Let's just leave it gray this time. All right, these are our buttons. This will be an add button. So we are going to attempt to add a new employee. This will be an update button, where we attempt to modify an existing employee. This will be a delete button, where we attempt to delete an existing employee. The last two will be our clear and our exit buttons. And I apologize for the internet going down. I'll be at Rankin tomorrow. So let's lock this into place. So that's locked. And let's double check and make sure that we've renamed everything. And it looks like I have. Okay. So let's just do the kind of cleanup work we always do. And that is, let's set our accept button. And I'm just going to set that to BTN add. Maybe I want to make it something later. I don't know. The cancel button will be clear. And let's do our tab order. So it'll be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Okay. And again, this will be our add, our update. We're going to do all these after the break, our delete, our clear. We will have a clear form here. And it'll be txt first name dot text is equal to nothing. Txt last name dot text is equal to nothing. txt, what else was there? There was salary dot text is equal to nothing. Txt department is equal to nothing, and txt first name dot focus. All right, and then I will also come in and add for our exit button, just so when we come back from our break, we can concentrate solely on this particular problem. All right, that should have fixed everything. All right, let's double check. So file save all. I think I don't know if I reset my startup project, probably not. So let's do that. All right, there that is good. Put junk in here. Clear. Yep, that worked. Exit. That worked. All right, I'm going to clean this up. And put in my comment, which is not from there, but from here. So as it says, the company wants to keep track of its employees' information, such as first name, last name, salary, and department. Create a GUI program that creates a different list type for each field representing an employee. So there will be 4 different lists. Allow the user to add employees, modify an existing employee, delete an existing employee, and display all employees. All right, and that's pretty much what we're going to have. Now, I have to, for lack of better words, warn you and let you know that the ad works, but not entirely. I wanted to work on it this morning. Something else came up. I didn't. No excuse. Okay, it's not perfect. It does a good job of showing you what I want to show you in here. Let's put it that way. All right. So we do have everything that's in here. And I want you to remember one thing, and then we're taking our break. But before we do, I want you to remember, please, one thing. And that is that the main difference between an array and a list, the 3 previous programs we did all utilized arrays. All right, they were fixed in size. This is going to be using 4 lists. All right, I did put 2 constants in here. And they were just a minimum salary and a maximum salary, and I made it pretty big. So I said const decimal min salary. Maybe you've got somebody who is a volunteer, so I made that 0.0 and a const decimal max salary that I made $1 million. All right, so that's done. And the only other thing I wanted to show you here is I did also make these 4 lists, and they are global. Now, when you do this, remember, it's not the way that you do it with an array. You say list, then in the brackets, the type of list it is. So this will be a list of strings. All right, and I called it first names. Just like with arrays, quite often when you do this, you'll pluralize it because it's going to be a list of names. All right, and that is equal to new list of string. And I won't even give it an initial number, so it'll have 16. I'm getting this error, and if I put my mouse here, it says, hey, you need that using statement, which is not in here right now. So I'll click it. It put the using statement right there, and it even put it where it belonged. All right, so let's do the other 3, and then we'll take a break. All right, so we'll have first names. We'll have, last names. we'll have salaries, and we'll have departments. All right. So are there better ways to do this? The answer is definitely. And in fact, when we get to chapter 12 and we start talking about classes, we'll probably revisit this example and talk about what's good and what's bad about this example. All right. So when we come back, I'm going to talk to you about something we have not talked about before, and that is the use of a list view. All right, I've got 10:17. Let's take 13 minutes and take till 10:30, please. Come back and we'll pick it up at that time. I need to replace my water, so I'll be right back. All right, it is 10:30, so I'm going to continue on. I forgot that I was supposed to use that split string.split in here, and I'm not going to go back and redo it. I will, and you'll get a copy of it in a little bit. But I went and Googled how to use C# string.split to split a phrase after each character. And I went and looked at a couple of them that stunk, so I found this one that was actually good, and that is splitting every character of a string. And you'll notice it's from Stack Overflow, and I've mentioned Stack Overflow to you before. It's kind of for geeks. In other words, it's sort of Facebook for programmers. You can post questions out there. Be real leery that if it's a very simplistic question, people will call you a fool or worse. All right. But when I went out here, I guess I didn't realize this, and I should have. But there is a string function that is called toChar_array, which does exactly what I wanted it to do. So I will reference this, and I will fix up this last program that we just did to incorporate that. The only reason I don't want to do it now is we're already at 10:30. So I want to get into this last program. If I'm only going to go to 11:30, if we don't finish what we're doing by 11:30, we'll start it there tomorrow, and then we'll go on and we'll do the couple problems from the homework. All right, we're going to use a list view, and in fact, stupid me, on here, this should not be right there. That should not be a text box. So I'm going to get rid of it. It's gone. And I'm going to go down to list view down here, and I'm going to bring that in. Just like that. Now, what's the difference? Well, that's what we're going to talk about in just a minute. But I'm going to call this LV for list view, LV employees. All right, which means since I added something new, I really should go back in and redo the tab order. So let me go back in and redo that. And it will be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So now that's fine. I also want to lock my interface into place. Okay, so that's all done. All right, now, so what about this list view thing? Well, this is from another site. It's called C# Corner. I didn't like the way that the list view was explained in the Microsoft documentation, so I brought this up. I don't want to read to you. The list view allows you to display a list. That should make sense. Okay. And it says you can either use the form designer to create one, or you can use the list view class and create it at runtime, if that's the case. I did it at design time. Now, what you may or may not have noticed is when I put this out here, there's a little arrow that's way up here. If I put my mouse there, it's in the upper right-hand corner, which means that that's called a smart tag, which means that if I click on that, there are things I can go in and add to this. I'm not going to go over them right now. We are going to talk about controls that have smart tags in them later on in the semester. All right. What we're hoping to do in here is I'm going to have headings. I'm going to have 4 headings: first name, last name, salary, department. Each one of them I'm going to design to take up about 1/4 of this box. Then, as I put information in here and click add, it'll add those people in here. If I click on their first name, it'll go and fill up the boxes with that person's information. Then I can update, or I can delete them. The update and delete work like a charm. The add works, but you'll see that it's a little quirky. We'll get into that in a minute. And the clear is what you think it would be, and so is the exit. Now with the clear here, we've got clear form, and notice in here, I'm looking in here, we didn't do anything before with that results, and that's good, because otherwise we have an error in here now. Okay, well, that's fine. Okay. So they do come in here, and you have to read through this, but they talk about how you can set up your list view, and you want to do that basically when the program starts. Why? Who cares? Why am I even telling you that? Because for the first time this semester, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here, and in my code, where we've got at the top initialize component, I'm going to add more stuff into here. So I'm going to say LV for employees view equals view dot details. And now I'm going to set this up. I'm going to put in the 4 columns. LV employees dot columns dot add first name, so that'll be the heading, and it'll take up, I'm guessing this is around 1,000, so I'm going to put each one of these into 250. If I have to redo it, I'll redo it. So we'll have another one with last name, and it'll be 250. Another one with salary, and it'll be 250. And finally, the last one with department, and it'll be 250. Now, for just a second, I'm going to comment this out. All right. Why am I doing that? Because I want to run this and show you that right now, there's nothing in there. I think you'd all agree. This is an empty list view. All right. Now I'm going to uncomment it. Oops, I didn't uncomment it. Let me uncomment it and run it again. It's hard to see that, but you can see first name, last name, salary, and department. The reason it's not bigger is because, remember, we had changed the size of everything, but in here, since this was a new control, it is still at 8. So just like before, 20 bold Arial, which I should have remembered, but didn't. But now we've got our headings. Now this isn't perfect. I'd probably want to tweak this a bit. You know, this is way left justified, etc. I don't care. But you can see that I've added these now. That's good. All right. Now, the next thing is, think about this. When I click, the idea is this. I want to run this. So let's say I run it. And in fact, let's run it. It's not going to do anything right now. But if I put in here, Jeff Scott, 125,000 and department web. When I click add, I want that to go right here. Okay, that should make sense. I want it to go right there. If I click on the first name, so if there's Jeff there and I click on it and I click update, it's going to bring all this stuff back in there. So if I wanted to change it to Jeffrey, I could do that. If I click on the first name and again, it brings it all back up here and I click on delete, it'll bring up a message that says, are you sure you want to delete this employee? And if you say yes, boom, they're gone. Now, hopefully all of that made sense. Why am I telling you that? Because think about it. This field, and this field are strings. Okay? Again, why should you care? I want to check all those fields and make sure they have a value in them. I don't want there to be anything blank. And this field has to be not blank, has to be numeric, and it has to be within range. Sound familiar? This is all stuff that we've done before. Why am I even telling you this? Because what I did before I started writing any of these routines, all right, and I'm going to put this right up above my clear routine, is I wrote another routine that I called validate employee. Why did I do that? Because whether if I come in here, if I'm adding an employee, those need to be validated. If I update, those need to be validated. If I delete, there's no validation to do. I'm just going to say, hey, do you want to delete them? And if you say no, I'll keep them there. And if you say yes, I'll delete them. But these two right here, those two things, all right, both of them, all right, these two right here are going to need validation of these 4 fields. Okay. All right. So that's what we're going to do. So again, inside of this validate employee right here. All right. And it's not small because I put everything in here. I could have written it as 4 routines: validate first name, validate last name, validate salary, validate department, or I could have written 2 routines, one called validate string, where I would pass in the first name, the last name, and the department, and another one that was called validate salary or something like that. I just did it all together. All right, so that's what you're going to get watching this here. So bool result, you know what that'll be used for. Later, we're going to attempt to take our salary and parse it into a decimal. All right, and then decimal salary, that's what we're going to parse it into, and we'll set that equal to 0M to start. So again, this routine, the idea behind it, this routine will be called when either the add button or the update button, if either one is clicked, it will verify that there is a value in each text box. In addition, it will verify that the salary is numeric and within range. In other words, it's between 0 and 1 million. All right. And we want to do that like it says for both the add and for the update. All right. And I could have done it either way. I just used a big try catch. So I've got a try here. And again, I'm going to have what, 1, 2, 3 different catches. All right. So I'll just say here catch. And what I'm going to catch is an argument null exception. I just want to scream at the top of my lungs how much I hate Charter. All right. And finally, I want to do an argument out of range exception. All right. I'm going to write those later, but I'm going to put all my code in here. And it's pretty much, by now at least, it should be a lot of what you think it would be. All right. We can do the first name. We can do the last name. We can do them in any order we want, but let's just do them in the order they're in. So if txt first name dot text dot trim, if it's equal to nothing, well, we left it blank and we said we're not allowing anything blank. So we're going to throw a new argument null, argument null exception. All right. So if we get down to here, there was something for the first name. So now we have to make the same check for the last name. All right. So let's put in last name. All right. So if we get down to here, and again, I said I just decided to do it in order. All right. I did check for it being blank in here. So if txt salary dot text dot trim equals nothing, just like in here, we'll throw an argument null exception. So if we get down to here, you know that it was numeric. So result equal decimal dot try parse. It again will be the txt salary dot text. We've already trimmed it, so I don't think we need to trim it again. And we'll put the out into salary. All right. If it didn't work, again, we know that we put something non-numeric in there. So if not result, I'm going to throw a new format exception. All right. Finally, if we get down to here, okay, if we get down to there, so if salary is less than the min salary, or salary is greater than the max salary, well, then we're going to throw a new argument out of range exception. Finally, I'm going to grab this one again, and we have to do our department. So that'll be department. All right, now we are at the point right now that if I quickly run through this, this again says if the first name is empty, throw an argument null exception. If the last name is empty, throw an argument null exception. If the salary is empty, you can throw an argument null exception. Technically, we don't even need that. We could just go to right here. I'll just do that. It's a little cleaner. So we're going to attempt to parse it. If we can't, either it was empty or we put something non-numeric in, so we'll throw a format exception. All right, if it's out of range, we throw an argument out of range exception. Finally, we check to make sure there's something in the department field. All right, and we're catching all those things that we had said in here. All right, so for each one of these, and I'm going to just put it in once and then copy it, we'll do our show error message. And as always, we will put the system message in here first. So this will be ANE.message. And then we'll add to that a couple blank lines, and then we'll put in our own message that says field cannot be left empty. That should say field. I don't know how I got that, but I did. Field cannot be left empty. All right. And what am I missing here? Oh, this is, again, an argument null exception. All right, so that'll handle that one, but we're going to make this a Boolean in here that we're going to return true if any of these tests fail. We're going to return false. All right, so I'm going to copy this one and I'm going to put it here, and all I have to change is this to FE, and then I'm going to cut in, I'm going to change the message to format exception with no space. And then finally this one, and it'll be AOORE, and this will say argument out of range exception. So now I am going to do that for all employees. All right, so that I should say when I'm doing an add or when I'm doing an update. All right, okay. So let's get back into here and let's look at the add. So the first thing I want to do is say bool keep going equal validate employee. If keep going all right, so if keep going okay, I am the world's worst hardware guy, but I'm going to read up this weekend, and I promise you that I'm going to go out to Walmart or Best Buy or one of these places, and I'm going to try to get a mesh network, which means I can get rid of my router and I can go and try to go right to this room that I'm in right now. And hopefully by doing that, this won't be going down anymore. That's what a guy from Charter recommended. I actually had a Charter employee come over to my house to try to fix these problems I've been having. And he said, hey, the routers we have suck. I don't have one at my house, even though I've got Charter. So I'm going to have to try to do that. So let's come in here and attempt to add the employee. All right, this is a list. I'm going to say that again. This is a list. All right. So the first thing I need to do is I could add it directly from the text boxes, but I don't like doing that. So I'm going to say string first name equals txt first name dot text. I can do a dot trim. It doesn't really matter. All right. I'm going to put this in here. All right. Now I can put in last name. And again, that's going to be equal to txt last name dot text. And I can do here. And with this is the salary, but this is the salary, but I can come in here and literally just do a decimal dot parse. I can do that because I've already checked earlier. I've already checked. All right, I don't think it likes the dot trim on there, but it's not. Oh, that's the problem. It's a decimal. Okay. I've already checked to see whether or not it was numeric. So I can put a dot trim on here. It won't hurt anything one way or the other. There. And finally, the last one we had left was department. And that'll be txt department. All right. Now I've got all those set up. Now I want to add them to the list. Add each of these fields to their respective list. Okay, so what are they? They are first names, last names, salaries, and departments. So I come in here and I say first names dot add first name. Last names dot add last name. Salaries, salary dot add salary. All right, we'll fix that in a minute. And departments dot add department. Okay, now here we've got salaries dot add salary, decimal salary. Okay, I should have made that a decimal. That was on me. All right, so that was my fault. And the error should now be gone, and it is. All right, now when I do this, what do I want to do? Well, that means I've just put stuff in here and it was all okay. So I want to add it to the list here. All right, but then I want to clear these out and put my cursor back there so I can add another employee. All right, well, we already know how to do that. That's in our clear button. That's in clear form. All right, so that's the next thing that we want to do here is we want to come in and call clear form. All right, so we're in our add employee, wherever the heck I put that. There it is, there. All right, so I want to call clear form. That's first thing I want to do. But the other thing I have to do, I put it into the list, but I have to update my list view. All right, I want to say that again. I put it into my list, but I have to go in and update my list view. Okay, so I'm going to call update list view, and guess what? That doesn't exist. All right, so we'll come down here and let's put it right underneath our validate employee. Okay, so private void update list view. Okay, and the first thing I want to do is make sure that list view has nothing in it. So LV, in fact, do I want to do that? Well, I'm going to put it here like this, but I'm going to comment it out because I don't know if I want that in there or not. We'll look in just a minute. Okay. All right. So I'm going to put in a loop. Now, when we did this with arrays, we used the name of the array dot length. When you are working with lists, you use one of the lists dot count. Okay, so in this case, it's first names dot count. So LCV less than first names dot count. All right, plus LCV. Okay, so we're going through this. We are going through this, okay, for each one of these. Now, it's a little hinky in here. there's different ways you can do what I'm about to show you. I went online yesterday and must have gone out to a half a dozen sites and tried all of the ones that were shown. This is the one that worked. So I'm going to say list view, list view item. And you typically, when you do that, you call it item. You could call it Ralph. It doesn't matter. Item equals new list view item. All right. And I'm going to put in first names of LCV. Then the other things that you want to add are called sub items. Again, I didn't make up the rules. I'm just playing the game. So I'm going to say item dot sub items dot add, and we're going to add last names, LCV, then another item dot sub items dot, and this will be the salary. All right. And remember, that's a decimal, so we'll do a dot to string on here, and we might as well show it like that. And then finally, we'll add our last one, which is departments. All right. Now everything has been added. All right. But now we have to add this item, which holds these four things. We have to add that item. All right. We have to add that item to the actual list view. So list view employees dot items, and we want to add item to it. Okay. And I'm looking on here. What doesn't it like? LV dot items. It says cannot be used like method. Oh, it's because I did it wrong. All right. Dot add item. My fault. All right. Now, I just want to say something to you before we're going to run this in a second. But before we do, we're going to check something first. What do I mean? When this program first starts running, all the buttons are operable. But as you look in here, there is no add. There is no update. There's nothing to add or update. So what I'm going to do is I am going to make these two buttons, these two, add and update. In fact, I'm going to use delete two, I believe. I'm going to take all three of these buttons and make them all inoperable when the program starts. In fact, the add button is actually okay. But I'm going to take update and delete because there's nothing to update and there's nothing to delete. I'm going to take these two buttons and I'm going to set their enabled property to false. All right. But I only want to do that if the list is empty. How do I know if the list is empty? Well, we just looked at it up here. If first names dot count is greater than 0, that means there's something in there. So I'm going to call enable, which I haven't written yet, update and delete buttons. All right. Otherwise, the list is empty. So I'm going to call disable, update and delete buttons. All right. And all I'm trying to show you here is, you've got to think of things in a logical way, right? And by taking these buttons and either enabling them or disabling them, you're actually going to make it easier for the person running the program. You may not agree with that, but it really and truly is the truth. So private void. So this will be the enable buttons, and it'll be btn update dot enabled. We want this one there. Oh yeah, that is enable. So we'll make that true. btn delete dot enabled, and we'll make that one true. That's if we're enabling. If we are disabling, we're just going to reverse it. So we're going to make both of these false. And it would be totally up to you. Here in my check, I'm saying if the count is greater than 0, enable, otherwise disable. I could have said if the count is less than or equal to 0, disable, else enable. All right, so again, you could do those either way. It really and truly wouldn't, or at least shouldn't, matter. Now, it's not showing me any errors here, so I am going to do a file, save all right there. And I'm going to see if I can add somebody. All right, okay, it's giving me an error. That's okay. Input string was not in a correct format. Okay, all right, which means it got to this add employee, but let's see. So it got to add employee here, if keep going, add employee. All right. And it came back and said decimal.parse. I don't wonder if it doesn't like the trim here. And I really and truly don't know. I wouldn't think that would hurt this at all, but I want to make sure. So if I get the same error, that's not what it was then. No. So it's getting here to this add employee. So that's being called from here. So keep going is returning true. All right, what does that mean? Well, let's go back and look at this validate employee. Decimal salary. So we've said if it's less than or equal to that, throw this. All right. Salary should be a decimal parse of what was in here. Trying to figure out why it would break. Okay. That's returning true. These are all false, false, false. Huh. Not sure what the problem is. Probably simple. Usually when it's a simple problem, I have the hardest time with them. So that seemed to be okay. Now let's look. Okay. Fields cannot be left empty. Same thing. Let's try putting this. We're still getting that. One of the fields was empty. Well, that says either I missed something on here or something is host. So let's see. First name, last name, salary. We can go back and put this one in, but we shouldn't have to. In other words, I can come back here and put this in with salary and do an argument null exception. All right, last name. So if it gets down to here, there should be something in here. All right, attempt. If it fails, throw a new format. Okay, if it's out of range. All right, and if this fails, otherwise return true. I'm looking in here for something that looks wrong. Yep, it's still coming up to there. Okay, this kind of gives me a chance to show you something here. I didn't want to show it to you now or like this, but I will anyway. So it is coming in here, and I can look down here. And if you look, it's showing for add employee, it's showing the salary as being 0. Oh, look what I put in here. First name. I didn't put salary. It's because I'm an idiot. All right, now let's see if we can add an employee. All right, I'll make it John Doe. Let's make it Jane Doe. Jane makes $250,000 a year, or 245, and she is a CEO. Add. There she is. Well, hot dog. That worked. Okay. Now, what we in here in this list view is we combined information from 1, 2, 3, 4 different lists. We put together and put it in here. All right. So that appears to be working. All right. Here's the problem. What I want to be able to do is if we click on the first name, we'll see this in a minute. I want all those to come up in here. All right. And what you're going, well, let me just run it because I'll let me do it and then it'll make more sense then. All right. So we've got that. At least it appears as though our ad is working. That's a good start. All right. Let's go to update. All right. So let's come in here. Okay. And well, what can we do in here? Well, let's see. If there's nobody to update, we're not going to be able to click that button because the list is empty. So the button should be at least. All right. It should be disabled. All right. And that's until we've got something in there. So let's again do a bool, keep going, equal, and we're going to call validate employee. All right. And if keep going. Now we don't want to, like we did before, we don't want to call add employee because we're not adding one. We want to call update existing employee, which we haven't written yet. We're going to write right down below this. Oops, not there. All right, so let's do it right here. All right, so this will be a private void. All right, and if keep, okay, private void update existing employee. All right, so let's write that one now. Not a real long program or a real long one, to be honest with you. Don't know how I got an extra space there. I don't like it, so I'm getting rid of it. There we go. And I'm going to say int, and I want to see which employee I am choosing. So I'm going to call that employee. So the first one will be employee 0. The second one will be employee 1. So I'm going to call that selected index. You could just call it index. You call it whatever you want, but index equal our list view employees dot selected indices 0. All right, it's the first one that I selected. Okay, now this is going to look similar, but not identical. All right, to what we did before. All right, so I am going to copy some of this. I'm not good. I'll just type it in. Okay, so we're in here, and I'm going to say first names, but now it's first names of selected index. All right, what is that? Well, what I want that to be is my first name. All right, then last names of selected index, and I want that to be my last name. Then salaries of selected index, and I want that to be equal to, I have to parse this, decimal dot parse txt salary dot text. I can put a dot trim in there. And finally, department. All right. That should hopefully thing. And there's two more things I want to do. I want to clear, so I'll call clear form. And again, I have to update my list view. All right, I'm just going to even these out. Again, I like doing that. Makes it easier for me when I'm going through this. Let's see if we can update an employee. All right, so file, save all. It's not saving these, so the employee's not in there. We're not talking about doing that yet. But, well, something's wrong here, because didn't we say that these buttons, I thought we said that those buttons should have been, I'll have to look at that. Right, they should have been disabled, but that's okay. Let's just put in an employee. So Jane Doe, Jane got a raise. She's now $250,000. She is the CEO. All right, there she is. Now, when I click on her name, oh, it's not working. She should have appeared in here, and that ain't working. So I must be missing something. We cannot come in here. This is a read-only thing. You can't come in here and change it here. We have to be able to click on this, and this is really the only one. And it's got to appear in here. For whatever reason, it must be missing a line of code. All right, I'll have to get that line of code. All right, I don't know what it is. Let's see. When we look in here, selected indices 0, first name, last name, salary department, selected index, equal, last name, parse through that, clear form, update list view. Well, I don't see anything in here that I'm missing, but evidently I'm missing something. So let's do this. All right. And that is, let's write the delete one. And then I'll have to go back and fix this. And we'll start with that then tomorrow. All right. I don't know if we're going to be able to delete this record that we'll put in or not. All right. But we're going to try. All right. So to delete an employee, all right, just like we did before, let me show you something first. This isn't how I wrote this for this update. Okay. What I did was back here, I actually put a check in here. Let's see if I put the check in, if this fixes it. I don't know if it will or not. All right. I don't even put that. Okay. This is going to look a little weird for a second, but I said if first names dot count is less than or equal to 0, meaning the list is empty, I did a show error message that said no employees to update. All right. I thought I'd handle that the other way before, but let's just check. List employee list view empty. All right. And then I said btn update dot enabled equal false, and I returned. All right. Else I did all this stuff. Okay. Otherwise, I shouldn't have to say this, but btn update dot enabled is true. We'll keep going. If keep going, update existing employee. All right. I did it like that. I don't know if that's going to change anything or not. And it didn't. Oh, got it. Well, I'm not sure what the problem is, but it is what it is. So I'm going to grab all of this code that's right here, and I'm going to use that for my delete, except anywhere that I'm referring to this with update, I'm going to change to delete. All right. Like I said, probably, I'm not sure, but probably it's a fairly simple fix. I'm just not seeing it right now. All right. So we'll delete the existing employee. Again, not a particularly long function. All right. But what I do want to do in here, okay, what I do want to do in here is I do want to ask the user, are you sure you want to do this? All right. In other words, I kind of want to do what we do down here. We ask the user if they want to exit the program. And if they do, we allow them to. Well, I'm going to grab all that code and I'm going to attempt at least to use that in my delete routine right here. All right, so I'm going to say dialog result with the message box.show, and I want it to say, do you really want to delete this record? And I'll put in here delete current record. And if you say yes, no, I'm not going to do an application.exit. I'm going to do the deletion. So first names dot remove at selected index. Last names remove at selected index. Salaries dot remove at selected index. Departments dot remove at selected index. Then again, we want to clear our form and we want to update our list view. I have no idea if this one's going to work, knowing the luck I've had today. It won't, but let's try it anyway. Let's add a couple employees. So I'll put me in there. There's me. Put my wife in there. All right. And well, something's wrong. It's added. So there's something goofed up in there. And it's not highlighting them. So I can't delete. I can go on here and I can click delete. But notice it's saying field cannot be empty because it wants it in here. Now, I don't know. I shouldn't have to manually fill this in. But let's see if I put in this. And I click delete. Do you really want to delete this record? Yes. Okay, and it's giving me an error. So there is something screwed up in my logic. I promise you I will go through and look at everything before tomorrow. But I'll let you go in a couple minutes. But before I do, I want to very quickly talk about what's in here. All right. So we came in and we set up 4 different lists. One to hold all of our last names, one to hold all of our first names, one to hold all of our last names, one to hold all of our salaries, and one to hold all of our departments. That should make sense. First name, last name, and department are strings. Salary is a decimal. Okay. Then when we came in, we set up our list view right there. All right. So we set up our details. That basically just set the headings up for us. All right. Now we come in here and the next thing we did was we wrote this validate employee, where we said, put this in a try-catch block. If the first name is empty, throw an argument null exception. If the last name is empty, throw an argument null exception. Oh, hold on. First name, there's last name. I don't know how these should be flipped, but that won't do anything. All right, so first name, argument null, last name, argument null, salary, argument null, All right. And department argument null. I'm going to grab this thing with the department, and I'm going to put that before I do anything with the salary. I'm going to do the salary last. So if the first name is empty, argument null. If the last name is empty, argument null. If the department is empty, argument null. All right. That's going to handle those three fields. Here, I'm not even going to check this. I'm just going to try to do the conversion. If this conversion fails, we're going to throw a format exception because either we left it blank or there's something in there that's non-numeric. So if it gets down to here, we know that there was a number in there and that number is inside of salary. So now we're doing a range check. If it's out of range, we throw an argument out of range exception. If we get down to here, everything should have passed, so we return true. If it's an argument null exception, we throw that. If it's a format, we throw that. If it's an argument out of range, we throw that. I think these two are at the same level, so I believe the order in which we put these two doesn't matter. All right. I could be wrong, but I don't think I am there. All right. So that we want to run, and we want to run that if we're adding a new employee or if we're updating an existing employee. All right. So for adding employee, we call the validate. If it passed, meaning if it returned true, we call add employee. Since there's no else, otherwise we're just going to quit. That does appear to be working. It is adding an employee for us, like this. So we are setting up our first name, last name, salary, and department. I do want to mention we could have done it like this. I could have left all four of these out and just come in here and said like txt first name dot text dot trim. That would have worked. I just think that's a little clumsy, for lack of better words, which is why I did it like this. And most textbooks that you see will show it like this as well, just so you know. So as it says, we're attempting to add each of the fields to their respective list. All right. We're clearing our form, which is going to clear those four text boxes. And then we're updating our list view. Now I'm going to go back and quickly look at the update list view, but I think that everything I wrote in there was correct. That is way down here. Update list view. All right. The only thing that I didn't do was this clearing it first. All right, maybe I do need to do that. I didn't think I did. All right. And then 4, 0, less than first name's count, item. So we're setting it all up here. Sub item. So this whole thing is bringing the four values that we have in the text boxes basically, and it's setting it up so we're able to add it to our list view. Okay. If the first names dot count is greater than 0, this should be enabled. Otherwise, this should be disabled. All right. Possibly, I'm looking at this. Okay. Technically, this should always be true. This should always enable them because we just added an employee. We could have even put this in a try catch. And if it failed, we could have gone in there and looked at why it failed. All right. So that was the add. If we try to update, we first check and see if there's nothing to update. And if there's nothing to update, we say that. All right. And in fact, I can take this. I think we added that same thing in here. Yep, we did already. Okay. So if we get down to here, the list view is not empty. Okay, we enable the button. We validate the employee. If the employee validates, we call update existing employee. When we do that, that's it right here. And again, I'm looking at my code, which is weird because my code worked. All right, and this isn't. Of course, it always works like that, but that's okay. We'll figure out what the problem is. All right. So right here, like I said, we're coming in and we are updating the list view. Okay. And I'm looking in here for my update list view routine, which is there. Where are you? There it is. All right. Well, that's update an existing employee right here. All right. That's calling update list view. And for delete, we're checking again to make sure it's not empty. And then we're coming in here and we're validating. We don't have to even validate the employee. All right. This is a delete. Okay. So we can just call delete existing employee. We don't have to validate because there's nothing to validate. We're getting rid of somebody. So we ask, all right, do you really want to delete this record? If they say yes, we remove that record. Now I've made a couple changes, but I don't think I've made anything that's going to affect the way this works. We'll see right now. All right. So yeah, it's not filling up in there. So none of these buttons are going to work. All right. I will go back. I promise you this. I'm going to do two things after I let you go in a couple minutes. All right. And the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and add that string.split to the program that we did, the last program that we did before this one, and get that working. Then I'm going to go back in here and compare every line that's in here to what I have on my master copy. All right. And if I get them both to work, I'll put them out there and they will be out there in a GitHub repo that will be called C# Practice Problems Chapter 8. All right. And I hope to get that done. And then I will start tomorrow by going over quickly what I did to add the string.split to our third problem and what I did. That was the one with the counting the letters, and this one. Then we'll jump right into the homework and we'll go through a couple of those problems. All right. You should still, I'm hoping, have at least an hour, 1 to 2 hours tomorrow to work on lab, and then Friday will be lab for the entire period. All right. That's all I have. Sorry there wasn't 100% here. First one works, second one worked, third one works, but we're going to fix it, make it hopefully work better. And the fourth one will have to get to work tomorrow. All right. So with that said, have a good day. I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks.